keeping your campus secure. You never think a tragic things like this is going to happen.
We're a community, and that's just what we do. We have to love on each other and support each other.
Welcome to a special edition of Cougar News. I'm Taylor Hilo.
And I'm Kai Turner. 6 days ago, our community was rocked by a senseless act of violence when a student opened fire on the campus of Saugus High School.
From the moment the first shot rang out, our community has displayed several acts of kindness, goodwill, and solidarity. Eyes from all over the world were on Santa Clarita as Saugus joined a long list of schools that endured a shooting. Here's a look at that tragic day.
21900 Centurion Way, shots fired.
A student walked into Saugus High School and opened fire, killing 2 people and hospitalizing 5 more. Then he turned the gun on himself, ultimately dying from his wound.
I heard like the first bang, it went bang, and it didn't really process. I thought someone might have dropped something outside.
A typical assumption for a student, especially in one of the safest cities in America.
The lights went off and I just heard like whimpering and crying.
His classmates crying out when they realized exactly what was happening. And it all happened in 16 seconds.
This update, 6 to 8 shots heard.
Multiple shots fired, possibly people down.
An officer dropping off his daughter was the first on the scene. He was joined by 2 other officers just minutes later.
They tended to the care of all of the victims and got the first aid rolling. So their actions definitely saved lives, and my hat's off to them.
They found 6 students with gunshot wounds. One of them was the shooter, a boy who had turned 16 that day. All of them were rushed to the hospital.
2 of those individuals succumbed to their injuries.
After the school was cleared of danger, the students were evacuated to a church nearby. Family waited, unable to take their children home just yet. They were then loaded on buses escorted by law enforcement personnel.
Take every seat possible.
They were taken to Central Park and reunited with family and friends.
Scariest moment of their life, just hearing those gunshots and stuff and having to run for their life.
A scary moment that many think about regularly, now that school shootings have become so frequent.
I've literally gone over the scenarios of what happens thousands of times in the case of a school shooter. And an active shooter, I've played that over, probably millions of times.
It's easier to be numb to another shooting when it's not your school, but this time we feel it.
The tragedy has a face, and the face is our community today.
The question after a tragedy like this is, how do we get back to normal? But what is normal? The FBI is still investigating. The motive is still unknown. So for now, we stay strong. For Cougar News, I'm Taylor Hilo. Santa Clarita is often considered a cop town. That refers to the large number of law enforcement that calls Santa Clarita their home. That factor played a major role in the response to the shooting at Saugus High School.
Copy, we're getting multiple reports at Saugus High School.
Before police radios crackled to life, the first person on scene was Sheriff Detective Dan Finn. He was dropping off a family member at Saugus High School.
I pulled into the circle, and there was one student that was running past me. So I contacted him and I asked him what was going on. He told me there were gunshots on campus. Based on that statement, along with the large number of students running off campus, I knew there had to be something to it. So I made the decision to go onto campus and see exactly what was going on.
Detective Finn wasn't alone in his efforts.
He was accompanied by Officer Sean Yanez from Inglewood Police Department, and then Officer Gus Ramirez from LAPD. So the 3 of them were the very first on scene. They entered the school literally within seconds of the shooting.
Okay, break. Okay, confirm we have no active suspect, no active shooter. We only have victims down.
Turned right and came upon the quad and immediately saw 3 gunshot victims on the ground.
Finn worked to secure the scene.
Lack of noise, lack of screams, lack of gunshots, lack of anything else going on in the area, that it was probably safe enough to start some medical attention on the victims. So that's what myself and the other officers did.
Being a former school resource deputy, he knew Saugus High School was equipped with specialized trauma kits.
Fortunately, one of the school administrators came out of the admin building to assist me, so I told him to go get him.
They worked to treat teenagers with gunshot wounds until help arrived minutes later.
We started assessing their wounds and trying to pack the wounds and stabilize them.
Together, they define what it means to be a cop town. Santa Clarita isn't just a place where law enforcement call their home, despite their differences in uniform. For Saugus, they responded the same.
when you're a school resource deputy, you take a lot of pride in, keeping your campus secure, and you never think a tragic things like this is going to happen.
Reporting in Santa Clarita, I'm Austin Dave.
The trauma kits Detective Dan Finn mentioned were immediately deployed to help save lives after shots rang out. Reporter Cameron Martell gives an inside look at the idea behind the medical supplies and who worked to make sure they were there.
For Valencia High School students Macy and Cambria Lawrence, they felt it was time for something to ease the fear of students at school.
People shouldn't have to be afraid when they go to school. They should be able to feel comfortable, and school should be able to feel their safe place where they shouldn't have to fear for their safety.
The sisters decided to create the bleed kits to help prepare students and faculty.
So we created these to help people become more prepared and to make them feel more protected.
To ensure everyone is safe, the bleed kits are placed in all classrooms.
Every single classroom in every public high school and junior high school in the whole Hart district.
The kits are filled with everything that are needed when assisting a wound.
2 tourniquets in each of these kits. We also have compressive dressings, quick clot gauze, which are special gauze that are saturated with kaolin, which is a chemical that can help your body clot faster. There are also trauma shears to cut clothing in case of emergency. There are gloves and an emergency blanket.
As soon as Detective Dan Finn secured the site, the bleed kits were there to help aid the injured students.
They were immediately brought to us, and we were able to utilize the bandages and other items in there to try to get some bleeding stopped.
Both sisters are grateful that their kits helped save a life.
Very grateful that our kits were there to help and that our kits are helping people feel safer and that they're helping save lives.
The Valencia students do not give up on hope, but wish for a future where events like this will not happen again.
It's going to get better, and that was a traumatic experience, as we all know, but you are safe, and it might take a while, but you will begin to feel safe at school again.
This was terrible what happened. Hopefully it can make us as a community stronger and better, and hopefully it can help so that situations like this don't occur in the future.
Reporting for Cougar News, I'm Cameron Martell.
West Ranch High School faced off against Long Beach, but it wasn't winning on the team's mind. It was a night of remembrance.
Saugus strong! Saugus strong! Saugus strong! Saugus strong!
Saugus flags waved and a sea of blue filled the stadium on Friday, but it wasn't the Centurions on the field. West Ranch dedicated their playoff game against Long Beach to Saugus High School in a show of support. Hundreds made it to the game to show the world that we are Saugus strong. Students from all over the valley hugged and comforted one another, putting aside football rivalries for something more important. A sense of community filled the stadium as strangers became connected through the mutual heartbreaking from Thursday's shooting. But the Santa Clarita community is determined to get through this by leaning on one another.
It's really about us just coming together as a community and us all showing support for one another and kind of being there for one another, just letting people know that we're together and we feel safe.
A local teen and her mom are working to create unity after Thursday's tragic shooting. Tiffany and Haley Hernandez took over a community room at the Valencia Travel Village to fasten together ribbons to hand out at Sunday's vigil. They drew a line of people, each giving up their weekend plans to heal.
Get a spot and start cutting.
Like the glue that bonds these two pieces of fabric.
The blue is for Saugus, and then the orange is for mass shootings.
14-year-old Haley Hernandez is working with her mom to bring people together.
We have 15 rolls, so we can make 9,000 now.
They're assembling more than 5,000 ribbons.
I got really shaken up from it because it was so close, and so I think that people knowing that other people care is gonna help them feel comforted.
The Hart High student says it's important to be a beacon of hope.
They will be able to see a light in a dark situation.
And she's not doing it alone.
We probably had maybe 60 people in and out overall today.
Tiffany Hernandez rallied the troops via posts on social media.
Strangers, just from Facebook. I just posted it and it kind of grew from there.
People giving up their weekend. Each of them using their hands to help fasten together symbols of support.
We're a community, and that's just what we do. We have to love on each other and support each other, the same way we would want someone to do for us. That's just what we do.
And what we do is stand strong, hand in hand, united as one.
I don't want my kids living in fear. That's not okay. We have an amazing God who will protect us all, and I know some people don't want to hear it right now, and I get it. We're in tragedy, but one day at a time, we will get through this.
Thursday's tragedy sent waves throughout our community, but now we're focusing on how we can uplift each other.
We will be SCV strong, we will be Saugus strong, and together we'll get through it.
Reporting in a healing Santa Clarita, I'm Austin Dave.
In the wake of tragedy, families, students, and more than 10,000 people came together to begin the process of healing.
I feel as though I have no words to describe how we're doing, yet at the same time, there's so much that I want to say.
That this senseless, tragic day is not how they want Dominic or Gracie to be remembered. It is not how they want our Saugus High School community to be remembered.
People say things happen for a reason. Why this happened is beyond me.
Consider all of us as a family. It's something that we would never think that someone on our own team would do something like this.
But I will say this, in these dark and painful times, let us look forward towards the light.
Dominic was smart, kind, funny, always willing to help his friends. I'm going to miss him.
I don't know if I told you this enough while you were still with us, but I love you so much, Gracie.
Nothing can replace his loss and no words can heal our hearts, but we can honor him by remembering him.
My favorite thing about you, Gracie, was how funny you were. You would always be able to put a smile on my face, and that's one of the many things I'll miss the most.
We will not move on without you, but rather move on with you in our hearts.
Thank you for being the best sister ever. I wouldn't want anyone else. Until I see you again, I love you, Gracie.
Strangers from all over the country reaching out in support and offering their assistance.
It is so difficult right now to put into words the emotions that we are all feeling. At this time, I implore you all to be leaders.
Since this has all happened, we have experienced the most love and support that I've ever witnessed.
We will all be forever connected in a unique and powerful way.
The road to recovery is not easy, and it's going to take a lot of time before we feel warmth and energy once more.
You just stop asking yourself why, and you start trusting that it will get better.
So as much as you can, please hug each other, comfort each other, love each other.
Tonight, as we light up well over 10,000 glow sticks in the colors of Saugus High School.
We are resilient, we are courageous, we are loving, and most of all, we are Saugus strong. Thank you.
He's working to bring light to a dark situation. This Saugus grad is using his candle making business, Renovation Candle Company, to raise money for Saugus Strong. Meet Tyler Coe.
I've lived in Saugus my whole life. I went to Saugus High School, and I think, you know, along with everyone in the community, it kind of kicked in like, what can I do to help? So I have this candle business. I know it has a little bit of popularity, so I thought I'd throw it out there, see if we could raise some money. So I decided to make 30 candles, see how far that went. That 30 candles spiraled into 600. Everyone who's been helping me for the most part is a Saugus High School graduate. Because we're trying to do such a high volume, these are being poured like way higher than capacity, so there has been a lot of spills. I think more than anything, it'll serve as a remembrance, a memorial to the victims, to the families, and also just it shows that, you know, this is a strong community, especially in times of crisis. I mean, how we've banded together in such a short amount of time is, you know, just sheerly amazing. This community really stood up.
Wolf Creek Brewery and the SCV Cornhole Group held a fundraiser to support the close-knit community of Santa Clarita. This provided a positive environment for people to show support during this difficult time. The young men of Saugus High School baseball team have donated the proceeds of the cornhole tournament they had to help the victims of the tragic event that happened on November 14th. 100% of the proceeds will be donated to the families of the victims. Attendees came together and dedicated a moment of silence. They embraced one another to remind the community that we stand strong in the midst of a heartbreaking event that happened at Saugus High.
Afterburn Fitness provided the Saugus Athletic Department with an outlet to release their stress in a positive way. Reporters Taruka Morishita and Ivan Ilgan show how the local business opened their doors to the teams.
The team helped the parents out. We know this is a really hard time, and a lot of times group activities and things like this really bring everybody's spirits up, endorphins up, and they're out there right now dying and high-fiving each other and believe it or not, smiling, even though they're dying. So that's what we wanted to see.
Hardcore Fitness provided a positive environment for Saugus athletes.
It's got to feel good, at least to forget for the next 90 minutes. And they don't have time, and I've been in these classes, they're out of wind. They're fatigued. They don't have time to think about the outside world, and that's kind of why we wanted to do this.
There is a present challenge that Saugus athletes are facing.
I think that each kid just has to be able to find their way to be able to communicate to the people around them, not isolate themselves, but figure out the best way for them to work their way through this situation. Maybe for everyone it won't be the gym, but hopefully they are able to utilize the network around them and everybody that cares in this amazing city and find something that allows them to work through this in a productive way.
There has been a light at the end of the tunnel.
So being able to do something that's physical, especially something like this that's physically demanding, it's it's beneficial for them. So I think that doing what we're doing today here gives them an opportunity for that outlet. You can't just sit and get mired in your thoughts and just allow something like this to prevent you from going on with your life.
The community has come together to support those affected by the tragedy.
Something like this happens, everybody wants to be able to rally around and do something for the kids. I'm just fortunate enough that I have an amazing community here, amazing staff that enables me to do something. We knew that the school was closed, the kids were going to have to be at home, and we didn't want to have them divided. We wanted to create something that would bring them back out and be united together and doing something productive and not at home focused on the negativity of the tragedy.
Reporting for Cougar News, I'm Taruka Morishita.
In the wake of the tragic events of last Thursday, Santa Clarita was left shaken. Many residents remain unsure where to turn. Cougar News reporters Maya Lockett and Sydney Sweet show the importance of seeking mental health care after a traumatic event.
Flashbacks, nightmares, emotional numbness, insomnia, guilt, and recklessness. These are all symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. The students of Saugus High School were subjected to a painful and distressing ordeal that no one should have to experience. The burden these kids are carrying is unimaginable.
Your world is shaken. Things aren't normal. Everything feels very intense, and you sort of get overwhelmed.
Many people are left wondering what they can do to help their loved ones cope in the aftermath of this senseless tragedy.
Listen. That is one of the most important things you can do, is listen, be non-judgmental.
There are many things to take away from the events that occurred at Saugus, but perhaps the most poignant is that it's okay to reach out.
Please seek help and go out and see the resources, because it's okay to hurt and it's okay to be traumatized from this, and to be honest and understand that it's okay to try to get some well-needed services right now.
There are lots of avenues for people to find support.
We want people to know that we're here at the Student Health and Wellness Center to provide personal counseling for anybody to get through whatever they're going through.
Reporting for Cougar News, this has been Maya Lockett and Sydney Sweet.
In a mad dash to seek shelter, many belongings were left scattered across the Saugus High School campus. Patrick Moyna shines the light on a senior who made an emotional trip back to the place she considers her second home.
And this was the first time that I saw myself in the mirror.
Just like any normal school day, Jade was sitting in class.
I was in first period and I was in the classroom with our teachers. All of a sudden, this kid walked into our class, and as the door was closing behind him, we heard 4 gunshots.
And at that moment, Jade knew that her life would change forever.
I don't think it actually hit me until I was sitting with my friend in the core crying while I was texting my mom and my dad telling them that there was a shooting. I was terrified. It was one of the scariest moments of my entire life. When I first walked back onto the Saugus High School campus, I was shaking a little bit. It was just nerve-wracking being there with a large crowd of people. It is going to be difficult, and it's going to be something that I remember for the rest of my life. In the present, I think that we just as a community need to work together and make sure that people are loved and people are cared for, especially the quiet people who don't walk around with many friends at school. Like, we just have to be great to everyone, be friendly, be kind. And I think us being so strong as a community, Saugus Strong, it's gonna help everyone. I feel like us being together will definitely ease the pain a little more.
Jade and other students will get the chance to meet again when classes resume on December 2nd. Reporting for Cougar News, I'm Patrick Moyna.
I'm joined by Aiden Zhuang, a Hart High School junior who started a petition on school safety. Aiden, thank you for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, first of all, can you tell me just a little bit about what this petition is?
So, this petition pretty much proposes some suggestions of how we could potentially increase our school's safety, right? So, the first proposal that my petition has is an increase in the staff deputies at the Hart District schools. Since right now, there's one deputy assigned to a couple of schools, so there's not always going to be one deputy on hand 24/7 for if another shooting occurs like the one that occurred on Thursday. And then the second proposal is for there to be mental health specialists available for kids at all times at Hart District schools. Because right now, all we have are counselors, which they are not professionally trained to help kids with their mental health issues. They're just kind of there to help with our academics as of right now.
Right, they're just the counselors that help you get your classes, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Perfect. Okay, and so tell me about the response you've seen from this petition. Has it all been good? Has there been negativity that you've seen?
For the most part, it's been very positive. Like, it's been shared through social media a lot. Like, tons of people have reposted it and put it in their Instagrams, their Snapchats, their Facebook. And for the most part, yeah, the response has been very positive. Like, people have come together and in agreement to a lot of the proposals that the petition's made.
And how many signatures have you gotten on this petition so far?
Currently, it's at 18,400 and still going.
Yeah, and you've only had it out a couple days, is that correct?
Yeah, for 5 days.
Wow, so that's a very big turnout for just the few days that it's been out. So this is a very controversial topic, having school shooting, having more deputies on scene. Not everybody wants a school to look like a lockdown. Mm-hmm. So what kind of negative comments have you seen in response to that?
Well, for the most part, it's just been criticism towards, some people saying that having this petition, what it proposes, won't solve the problems. They believe that having extra deputies won't help, having more mental health resources on hand won't, completely solve the problem. They believe that metal detectors are required. But for the most part, it's just been, criticisms as to what could come out of the petition.
What do you say to these negativity comments that you get?
What I have to say is just like, I understand that it won't completely solve the problem. I know it's not one set in stone solution, but I hope that maybe it could be just a step in the right direction, because the petition's not meant to, be a concrete solution to the problem. It's just supposed to be like some suggestions, how could we maybe improve school safety in the future so something like this doesn't happen again.
So where do you want to see this petition go? What do you want to see come from it?
I was hoping that we could maybe have everyone come together in agreement. Like, I made this petition to not be political, because a lot of people make it out to be a political issue, gun control or mental health. So I made this petition in the hopes that people could come together, and hopefully we could start making change, starting with the local level here at our Hart District schools.
Well, thank you, Aiden. I really appreciate you being in here today. And now we're going to send it back to Kai in the studio.
Sometimes it can be difficult to define a tragedy. In many cases, it can be difficult to put it into words. Connor McKinnon shows how one Santa Clarita teen expressed her feelings about the Saugus shooting in the form of a poem.
Dear Columbine, dear Parkland, dear Sandy Hook, dear places who have seen this before, could you tell me how? Could you tell me how you got up some morning after it was all over? Could you tell me how to fight my fears?
It was just how I was feeling after the attack, and I wanted to put it into words, how I just felt so much and I couldn't do anything about it except for express myself.
Now that they've become true, because despite how surreal this all is, despite how much I want to cry or vomit or laugh or scream at how ridiculous this really is, at how it was finally us, I still want to get up. I don't want to live with this fear on my chest.
I actually thought that people would make fun of me for it or reply to it and say, this is useless.
This guilt, I wasn't there. I was down the street, hoping they weren't coming to me, calling my friends, waiting for the simple response of, I'm okay.
I just sat down really, and originally I was just gonna write an actual letter, and then it just came out the way it did.
So could you tell me how to move on? How do I go to school when my classmates can't anymore?
I know that I wrote it, and I know that it doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to everyone.
Sincerely, Santa Clarita, the new name on your list.
Broadcast news is typically competitive, but this morning, in another example of camaraderie, students at West Ranch High School set that ambitious nature aside.
I'm Lexi. I'm Katie.
I'm Roman.
And I'm Owen, and I'd like to say that a very big thank you to everyone at West Ranch for inviting us onto your campus and for all your support. It really means a lot to us.
WRTV, the school's daily morning news show, hosted special guests. The program included Saugus High's SNN students during their live broadcast. Led by West Ranch instructor Jennifer Overdevest and Saugus High's Wade Williams, the groups united to deliver the news to the student body. The show included an interview with a Saugus High School student focused on how the incident has impacted her.
Whenever I go out, since it happened at the vigil or just any time I've been on campus, I've seen Saugus Strong everywhere on almost everyone. And it's really nice to just see how SCV and how our community just rallies together and just comes together to support us.
That does it for this special edition of Cougar News. I'm Taylor Hilo.
And I'm Kai Turner. To send your support to those impacted by Thursday's tragic incident, visit saugusstrong.org.
We want to end tonight with a quote from Deputy Hart Superintendent Mike Coleman. On behalf of the Saugus family, we want to thank everyone for the countless acts of kindness and compassion that have been extended by friends, neighbors, local churches, community groups, local, state, and national leaders. Let us take courage in knowing that we are stronger as we stand together to face this crisis. Good night, everyone.